Are the Utah Jazz suddenly in a playoff race? We're discussing as we hit day 3 of an Eastern Conference gauntlet road trip in Milwaukee. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Today on the show, are the Utah Jazz suddenly in a playoff race? Almost to the halfway point of the season? We'll discuss. No surprises so far in 2 games on an Eastern Conference road trip. Scouting reports are beginning to have an impact on our guys. There's no Dame in Milwaukee tonight, and the Bucks are a bit sour. Jazz might be walking into a little bit of a hornet's nest. And if we have time, we'll get to Trends Monday as well here on Locked on Jazz. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. Please subscribe, follow, and then on YouTube, hit that little bell button that gets you the notifications every time we launch a show or go live after a game with Postcast with Ron Boone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate you and being a part of Locked On. Are we in a playoff race? We are currently 12th, which seems very reasonable in the playoffs, and 10th suddenly means we're in a playoff race. We're a game out of the play-in. The Lakers got a much-needed win last night. The Warriors feel like they might be combusting. You look at the data, and there's a ranking called SRS, which is the simple rating system. It's a team's rating, taking in differential, strength of schedule. In that case, we're 12 still. And we're way behind the Lakers, who are 11th, and really far behind Phoenix and Sacramento. So, that data point tells us no chance you're in a playoff race. There's just a separation. And then you look at the plus minus, and our differential is still -5. So there's no chance that we're in a playoff race. But then you go look at an old school. Now we've played a few more games, so this actually makes it so it's to our advantage. You go look at an old school little thing where you take your road wins minus your home losses. And we're +1. And the Lakers are 0, and the Suns are -2, and the Rockets are -3, and the Warriors are -3, and the Grizzlies are -4. Tells you that the Rockets are probably coming back to life a little bit, which I think they are, though they got a nice win against the Bucks the other day. The Warriors might legitimately be in trouble. And that the Lakers and Phoenix, we'll see. And then you just look at the standings. And the standings have us right there. You project out the standings, we don't look good. Like you go look at Basketball Reference, they have us going 34 and 48, and we're nowhere close. The 10th team is going to win 40 games, and we're 6 games off that. And our chances of making the playoffs making the play-in is 3.7%. But you look at the standings, feels like it a little bit. I don't know. The only thing I would say is the Lakers did get a much-needed win last night, but they're a bit of a mess. And Phoenix is a bit of a mess. And the Warriors are a bit more than a little bit of a mess. They're like a big mess. They do get Draymond back. We'll see what happens. And Sacramento shouldn't be losing by 33 at home, but they're not about to come back down to us. But it does feel a little bit, particularly the Lakers and the Warriors, and as the Rockets come back to life a little bit, and maybe as Phoenix continues to scuffle, that those teams are actually going to put us into a playoff race because they're all having such issues that we're in a playoff race because they've put us in one. Might as well enjoy it. And as we said last year, there's great value to our guys playing important games. So as long as our guys think they're in a little bit of one, and they start to play with some games that have a level of importance, they learn more, they're better learning experiences. There's something to it. So maybe we are in a playoff race. Frankly, from your standpoint and my standpoint, if it gets more fun because of the fact those teams are coming back to us a little bit to put us in a playoff race, let's embrace it. And frankly, like if you win tonight and you suddenly go to Boston, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, regardless of no Embiid and no Lillard, and you go 2-1, you suddenly have such an advantage over what everybody else is going to do on this trip, because everybody else is either going to go 0-3 or 1-2, that you actually get a little bit of a bounce there. So, and these are the kind of ways you actually get yourself into a race. Is if we actually pulled off a win tonight, still not easy without Dame. In fact, it might be harder without Dame. Is you end up with an advantage over the rest of the Western Conference in a manner that actually makes it somewhat like now you are. That's how you kind of make the inroads. So super interesting. All right. So far in these conference trip, I would say there have been 0 surprises. We went to Boston and just got manhandled. The more I watched it, the opening 4 plays of the Boston game was 4 of the most dominating plays I've ever seen by a team. The Jazz get a turnover on the first play by Jaylen Brown, and Kris Dunn goes the other way, and I think Jason Tatum blocks the layup. And I think Fontecchio gets the rebound and maybe airballs it. I'm doing this off the top of my head, not off a play-by-play sheet, because there's too much length around him. And either we get the ball out of bounds or they go score, and then we bring it back, and out of a side out of bounds play, Will runs a beautiful play to Lauri Markkanen, who shoots like 90% at the rim on a curl to the rack, and Jaylen Brown blocks it at the rim. And then Drew Holiday rolls down the middle for a jam, and Derek White buries a 3, and we missed some shots, and that is as fast as a game has been over in anything I've ever seen. So that was just a wild reminder of how far the difference between being an NBA champion and where we are and where we have to go is. That's what that was. Because that's an NBA championship team. That team's awesome. And they kicked our ass. Like it was dramatic. Fine. Not surprising at all, actually. It's what they're doing. They then went the next night on a back end of a back-to-back into Indiana and held Indiana like to 104 points. It's crazy. They are now the holders of the NBA belt, by the way. It's like our WWE belt runs around. The Jazz had the belt for 2 nights and then lost it to Boston. I don't know when Boston gives it up. Then Philadelphia, that wasn't a surprise either. They don't have Joel Embiid. They don't have Tobias Harris. They don't have DeAnthony Melton. As we talked about on the radio broadcast, as great as Tyrese Maxey is, he's a 50% catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and he's a 30% off the bounce 3-point shooter. And in the last 2 games, he's really struggled. Chicago and Miami, he got 0 spot ups. And he went 4 of 18 against Miami, and he went, I think, 7 of 22 against Chicago. And I think he got 1 spot up the whole night against us and missed it. And his best games are when he gets spot ups in transition. And if Joel Embiid's not on the floor and Tobias Harris is not on the floor to create, and he's the only one to create, then he doesn't have anyone else to do that. The Jazz took advantage of it, and the Jazz controlled a shorthanded Philadelphia team where the Jazz were the better team on the roster. I mean, sometimes this gets super simple. You're going to Boston. I think Lauri Markkanen starts for the Celtics. Maybe not, honestly. Like, he's not starting over Jason Tatum. He's probably not starting over Jaylen Brown. So you're going to have to put him into the starting lineup in place. He's not starting over Kristaps Porzingis. You're going to have to take probably Derek White, who's verging on an all-star, averaging 20 points a game, out of the starting lineup as their point guard, to put Lauri in the starting lineup. And we got hammered with him. You play Philadelphia without Joel Embiid, playing Paul Reed, without Tobias Harris, playing Marcus Morris Sr., and without DeAnthony Melton, and like suddenly our roster would start for them. Like that, we were just the better team. So no surprises so far. Tonight's interesting because Milwaukee is scuffling. They've lost 3 of 4. Their defense is horrendous. Dame's out for personal reasons. I actually think this will be Dame's really good, but I actually think this is to Milwaukee's advantage to play without Dame. This is Giannis, Middleton, Lopez, Portis coming out with some fire. Giannis won an 8-minute diatribe the other night after the postgame about how terrible they are defensively and how they have to change it. And this is going to be these guys' chance to remind everybody that they're the ones who won a championship along the way, and they're going to come out and they're sour, and they're going to come out, and I think they could blast us in the opening 5-7 minutes of the game if our guys are not totally focused. There are a lot of wild scores in the NBA right now. We'll get into it a little bit. I have a theory on what's going on with that. But let's take a look at we're just getting started today. We got a lot of stuff. Let's take a look at some scouting report stuff. We've had the same starting lineup predominantly now for a while. A bunch of guys are getting increased roles. How is it impacting them? Is Simone now on a scouting report being impacted? Is Collin on a scouting report now being impacted? Is Kris Dunn now on a scouting report being impacted by things a little bit? Is John Collins? We'll take a look at those things coming up, as well as we'll look a little deeper in Milwaukee. And then, are we in a playoff race? Trends Monday might tell us a little bit of that as well. All coming up on Locked On Jazz. Monday edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross and in Logan. The Chevy lineup of cars, absolutely incredible. The trucks, gosh, do you ever know the trucks? The Silverado and the Colorado, the best Chevy truck. It's Americana. It's the best truck on the market. And the Silverado is just killing it. And is like, when I've driven the Silverado, it's been one of the great treats I've ever had. You're just sitting up there, you're cruising, you're feeling the power, you're up on top of everybody, you're just up there, and then it's a comfort of a lazy boy chair. The SUV lineup gets better and better. It kicks off with the Tahoe and the Suburban, and then works its way all the way down to the Blazer and the Trailblazers, changed the lineup down to the very tracks, and the Bolt is their electric car that has wowed people across the board. It's all over at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross and in Logan. The Murdoch's over 80 years in Utah, giving you the best experience you possibly can. Like they refer to it as the no regrets experience. So make sure you go check it all out at Murdoch Hyundai for you. Excuse me, Murdoch Chevy. If you're going to stop by, please let me help you out. Feel free to email me first. I'll get you your locked on, well-deserved VIP meeting. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Use the code locked on for $20 off. Why Game Time? Well, there's a bunch of reasons why Game Time. Number one, Game Time is an easy, simple to use spot. And one of the things is you don't have to go search 5 different apps to get the best price, because Game Time gives you the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app now, create an account, use the code locked on. You get 20% off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create that account and redeem. Spell out LOCKEDON. That's locked on for $20 off. Plus, Game Time gives you flash deals, sponsored deal on tickets, zone deals. You pick the section Game Time, they give you the big savings, all at the Game Time app for you. The official ticketing app of Locked On. Locked On for $20 off is your code on Game Time. Take advantage now. Thank you very much for making Locked On your first listen of the day. We have launched the first ever 24/7 national sports channel on YouTube. Go check it out. Great day. Mondays are always a super day to catch up. The NBA, Locked On NBA show with Jackson Gatlin every Monday is outstanding. It's the 3 biggest stories of the week with the local experts. Same thing with Kevin Ostreicher on the NFL. 3 biggest stories of the weekend with the the local experts. Matt George's Sacramento Kings podcast last night and Cyrus Soskis Warriors podcast. Both teams lost badly. We're great examples of how the local experts of Locked On get you a better kind of breakdown of what's going on than the national experts with their just kind of big talking points. So check those out if you want to as well. Really outstanding stuff. Today's radio broadcast, Locked On, always available for you on Sirius XM. The hometown broadcast, always on Sirius XM. Go search Utah Jazz on Sirius XM and catch the radio call of tonight's game against the Milwaukee Bucks. All right. How have scouting reports impacted our guys? It's interesting. So Kris Dunn, I do think, is suddenly kind of running into it a little bit right now. If you look at Kris Dunn's first 2 games in the starting lineup against Detroit in Toronto. He takes 11 shots in each of those games. He has 23 assists in each of those games combined, not obviously. And he has 21 points and 23 assists. He averages basically a double-double. He was outstanding. Since then, and he played 33 minutes in both those. Since then, he has not played over 25 minutes in a game. His last 5 games as a starter. So this is like, oh, Kris Dunn's a starter. Put him in the front page of the scouting report. What do you got? And what in the last 5 games, he's shooting 30% for the field, 20% from 3, 3 points, 5 assists. He's still positive on a bunch of those nights because Kris Dunn's just a good positive player to have out there. He has not shot a single free throw in 6 games. So you just can kind of see people know, like, and even his assist numbers, 6. So went 10, 13, 6, 3, 6, 7, 4, 5, 1. I just think we know Chris's game. He's not going to shoot a 3. He's taken 5 in the last 5 games. He's hit 1. He's taken 9 in the last 7 games. He's hit 2. He's not going to take a 3. He's not going to the rim anymore. He adapted his game as from a young player to this right-hand floater game, and teams kind of know, hey, he wants to get back to his right hand, and they're just denying him that right hand, and it's taking away a little bit of what he's able to do. So you are seeing a veteran player. Teams know him. Scouting report. Let's take a look at Collin. Started 14 games. The first 7, Collin averaged 23 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. He shot 47% from the field and 41% from 3. In his next 7 games, impressively, he's shooting 53%. So he's bumped his field goal percentage up from 47 to 53%. Simultaneously, his 2-point shooting percentage is way down. This is probably just a regression to the mean. And what I do love about what Collin's doing right now is he's taking generally 3 to 4. He was taking 5 threes a game. He's cut it down a little bit. I hope he doesn't get reluctant to shoot. He's got to be able to take 5 threes a game. If Collin's going to be a productive shooting, 3-point shooting guard in the NBA, he has to take 4 to 5 threes a game. As he has kind of gotten less confident in his 3-point shooting, he started to take less, which is understandable, just regrettable. I wish he wouldn't. I love the fact that like 6 free throws, 5 free throws, 9 free throws, 6 free throws, 4 free throws, 10 free throws. Like he's getting to the line 6 or 7 times a game. So I don't want to take that away from him. But if he can put the combination of 4 or 5 threes a game, just so there's a threat, coupled with, he's averaging over the last 9 games, 6 free throws a game. Now he's shooting 29% from 3 on 3 attempts. So I get it. Like I understand he understands, hey, if I go to the rim and get fouled, that's better than me shooting a 3. And over time, he's absolutely right. And even more recently, he's 2 of his last 11 from 3, 3 of his last 15. So he's really quieted down a little bit. But he's given him 10 assists the other night for Collin. Collin's assist numbers in the last 4 or 5 games, 5, 6, 5, 3, 10. Scouting report is impacting him, but impressively by Collin Sexton, I think he's adapting and improving his game. He told us a crazy story after the game the other night about these goggles he wears. That he goes out with his brother every morning at 7 a.m. and has these goggles on. They're flashing lights at him to distract him. And he's trying to make plays and make reads on the court with these goggles on to be able to help him get more precise and get better reads. And it's making, and he feels like it's making him better. 10 assists the other night was fabulous. He just read the game beautifully, understood what's going on. He's improving in so many aspects. Usually when guys get increased time, we see a little bit of like, oh, other teams recognize them, handle it. Collin, while struggling with his 3-point shooting, is actually being just as effective. Pretty amazing. So give Collin a lot of credit on that. The other one is Simone. So Simone at 6'8", 210, he's a little bit of the talk of the league right now. Like, who is he? What's going on? Why is he still starting? He has now been starting, by the way, since November 25th. Like, he took a one-day gap out of the starting lineup, but or 3-day gap. He started basically 22 straight games. He's scoring 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 45% and 39% from 3. 39% from 3. So the question is, like, has the scouting report gotten to him at all? Well, if you split up his starts in those 21 games, you take his final 11 or 10, no. In his last 10 games, 11 games, 8 of them starts, 10 points a game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 47% shooting, 40% from 3. He's actually going to the line. He's kind of had these gaps of going to the line versus not going to the line. It'd be nice if he goes to the line. He's rebounding at a super high rate recently. This really has got to make you believe that this is a really valuable player. His last 5 games, 7 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 7 rebounds, 4 rebounds, 7 rebounds. With double-digit assists every day as well, and a steal now in 7 straight games. Simone is really proving he has immense value. And you can tell, like, when he first started, it was like, oh, here's 20 minutes. You know, he's playing 25, 28, 25. Then all of a sudden it went to 33, 34, 31. Like, coaches will tell you a lot in this league. The other night, Simone played 32. And on a night where he was 3 of 9 and 1 of 6 from 3, he still grabbed 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and had a pretty fabulous night. Now, does he wear down? Is this a lot? Yes. Playing 3 games in 4 nights. Let's see what happens. But so far, in regards to the scouting report, I would give Simone, Collin and Simone are seeming to be in the starting lineup, handling it really well. Impressive. Really, really impressive. All right, Milwaukee. They've lost 3 of 4. Giannis goes on an 8-minute diatribe about how bad the defense is. I think unrelated, but you never know in the NBA. Dame Lillard then announces the next day he's out with personal reasons. This is a different world for Dame. So, last year, Dame got 88 touches a game. This year he's getting 77. That's down 17%. That's a lot if you're a player. Last year, Dame got 37 front court touches a night. This year, he's getting 29 front court touches a night, down 22%. And his time of possession is from 7.5 minutes a night to 7. So think about it from a percentile manner. Like, before you're like, oh, that's not that much. Yeah, like 37 front court touches to 29 is a 22% decrease. If you were a sales guy and they took away 22% of your listings, you would not be happy. This cannot be what Dame thought he signed up for. Or cannot be as enjoyable as you thought. Giannis, by the way, as it should be, in 22-23 playing with Drew Holiday, had 78 touches a game, and Mike Budenholzer is his head coach, had 78 touches a game, and in 23-24 he has 79. The exact same. Last year he had 36 front court touches. This year he has 40. So he's actually getting the ball 10% more in the front court than he did last year. And his time of possession last year was 5.2, and this year it's 4.6. So he has much less time of possession, but he's getting more touches. What's interesting is if you look at Dame Lillard versus Drew Holiday, they're similar. Drew Holiday was getting 73 touches in the front court last year. And this year, Dame's getting 77. So he's just taking his role. 25 front court touches by Holiday, 29 by Dame. In time of possession, Dame actually has the ball for an extra minute. So Dame's bringing it up, playing with it more than Drew, who's really naturally a 2, and playing a 2 in Boston. But front court touches, overall touches and front court touches, he's just taking his. And we'll see when Chris Middleton gets more and more active as he's playing better, what happens there. We'll talk a little bit more about what we have coming up with them. Plus, we'll look at a little look at the trends Monday and see, are the Jazz actually in a playoff race as we continue on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. NFL playoffs are coming, so we have all sorts of fun that's coming there. National championship game coming your direction as well, so that one can be fun for you over at FanDuel. Here's the great deal that FanDuel has for you right now. If you're a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. So right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place. Don't have to win. A $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, over at FanDuel.com/locked on. The FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's look at some of the most exciting things they have on the books right now. They have a fun little parlay for Washington, Michigan, whether Penix goes over 300. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite. Number of TDs in the quarter. You can go anywhere. They have every line imaginable. NFL playoffs. Cleveland's a 2.5-point favorite over Houston. The Chiefs are a 3.5-point favorite against Miami. Buffalo's a 9.5-point favorite against the Steelers. Cowboys are 7.5-point favorite over Jordan Love and the Packers. Lions 3-point favorite over the Rams, and Eagles, despite all their problems, are a 2.5-point favorite. The Super Bowl odds right now, Niners plus 230, Ravens plus 350, and the Buffalo Bills are just snuck into the playoffs at the end, are the third most likely team. Your NBA lines tonight for the Utah Jazz against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are an 8.5-point favorite over the Jazz, and maybe that sums up what they think the impact of no Dame Lillard is going to be tonight for the Bucks. That is FanDuel.com/locked on. Thanks very much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. Thank you to the everydayers that are out there. And by the way, again, tonight's game available for you on SiriusXM, all hometown broadcasts available for you on SiriusXM. Also on Jazz Plus, Holly Rowe's got a bunch of great content available. Holly Rowe will be working the national championship game, and Jazz holiday packs are still available. So there's some great deals, and the Jazz are leaving those up for you to go take advantage of if you want to come see the Utah Jazz in their NBA playoff race, right? All right, let's take a look. We do this on Mondays to kind of get a trends of where the league is going. Let's look at the last 10 games, and then we'll look at the last 2 weeks to see what the trends are. And we'll look at where the Jazz rank now. Okay, so the number one team in the league over the last 2 weeks is the Boston Celtics. The number 2 differential team in the NBA is the Pelicans. Number 3, the Thunder. Number 4, the Pacers. And number 5, the Cavaliers without Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. Really interesting. Denver's 6. Jazz are 9th. All right, well, that would make you think. Teams that are really scuffling, this is not a huge surprise, in fact, on any of them until I push it up to the 7th most struggling team. Hornets, Wizards, Spurs, Blazers, Pistons, Nets, maybe a little surprise. Lakers. So the Lakers are in there because, as LeBron said, we suck right now. The best offensive teams in the NBA over the last 10 games, Boston at a 126, Indiana at a 124. Jeez. Oklahoma City at 123, Clippers at a 121, Cavaliers at 121, and Toronto with their new pieces as a 121. We're at a 117.5. We're 13th offensively in the last 10 games. League average is 116. Teams that can't score right now are Charlotte, San Antonio, Memphis, Portland, Chicago, Washington, and the Lakers. Defense, best in the NBA. The Pelicans are the number 1 defense in the NBA the last 10 games. That's surprising. Chicago's number 2. Zach LaVine's playing less. Dallas, number 3. That's surprising. Boston, 4. Miami, 5. Philadelphia, 6. Teams that aren't defending: Detroit, Washington, Atlanta, Charlotte, Brooklyn, and the Warriors. Defensively, in the last 10, we're 12th. So we're literally, in the last 10 games, we're the 13th ranked offense, the 12th ranked defense, and the 9th ranked team overall over the last 10 games. That is pretty much an average. That's if we do that, and I thought we would go 9. I think I said we'd go 8 and 12, 9 and 11 in the next 20 when we looked at it last time. Probably keeps us in a playoff race. All right, last 2 weeks, a little shorter sample size. Boston, New Orleans, Clippers, Indiana, and Oklahoma City are the top teams. And the struggling teams are Washington, Charlotte, Portland, Detroit, Brooklyn, San Antonio. No big surprises. No real surprises there. More recently, the hottest offensive team is Indiana, followed by Toronto. Okay, that's worth watching. Toronto is suddenly killing it offensively as they added somebody who actually runs their offense, added RJ Barrett, got rid of OG Anunoby, moved him across. So that's interesting. New York's playing really well with OG too. Oklahoma City is 3, Boston's 4, Denver's 5, Phoenix is 6, Clippers 7, New York 8 offensively. Teams that can't score right now are Washington, Charlotte, Memphis, Miami, Chicago, Portland, and the Lakers. Defensively, New Orleans still number 1 by a lot, actually, so keep an eye on that. Clippers, and Willie Green is a defensive coach whenever you talk to him. Clippers, Boston, Cleveland, Dallas, again surprising, and Miami. Teams not defending are Detroit, Golden State's 29th, Washington, that's without Draymond, Washington, Atlanta, Portland, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. Okay? No surprise. Really on the worst teams, there's a separation going on right now. League average over the last 2 weeks is a 116. Just keeps going up and up and up. It was 117 for the month of December, though, I think. Should be interesting to see. All right, that is Locked On Jazz today. Ron and I will be back with you for postcast. Thanks very much for tuning in. Holiday packs are still on sale at utahjazz.com. Great deals. Bonus available. Right now, we will send you over to the first ever 24/7 national sports stream on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. Hope you enjoy all the great Monday coverage. Thanks so much for being an everydayer. Thank you for being a part of Locked On Jazz, your team every